So oftentimes you can choose between using the product rule or the quotient rule to take the derivative of something. I typically prefer to use the product rule because it's simply easier to remember. To give you an idea of what that means, usually if I'm given, let's say that I have to take the derivative of a function like we had before, f of x, divided by g of x, and normally you would think, oh, well, I'm going to use the quotient rule. And then I'm going to go through all these steps, and then I'll get some kind of answer. It's much easier to rewrite this as taking the derivative of f of x times g of x raised to the negative 1 power. And once you do this, then you can use the product rule, which is much simpler and has fewer steps to understand. So let's do a quick example where that might be the case. Let's say that we're given f of x is equal to cosine of x over x squared. If I were to use the quotient rule, well, the quotient rule goes like this. F prime of x is going to be equal to the derivative of this numerator, so negative sine x, times the denominator, so x squared, minus the derivative of the denominator, so 2x, times the numerator, so cosine x, and then all of this divided by the denominator squared, so x squared squared. And so if I scroll down here just a bit, this will give me negative sine x over x squared minus 2 times cosine x over x to the third. But if I go ahead instead and rewrite this equation as f of x is equal to cosine of x times x raised to the negative 2, and I go ahead and use the product rule now, well, this is a little bit easier to memorize, where you have f prime of x is equal to the first function, cosine of x, times the derivative of the second function, which would be negative 2 times x times negative 3, plus your second function, so x raised to the negative 2, times the derivative of the first function, which is negative sine x. And that's it. You don't have to deal with any fractions or anything like that, and you get the same answer. This is going to be equal to negative 2 cosine x over x to the third plus negative sine x over x squared. And what you'll notice is that these two are the same answer, but we didn't have to go through all this business of trying to put together a fraction and remember a lot of steps. So typically, this is why I prefer to use the product rule as often as I can.